Hello, welcome back everybody. Let's have a look at Matic then. So looking at the daily chart, it looks absolutely tragic, it looks terrible, it looks awful, it looks horrendous, it looks terrible, it's awful, it's tragic, that's all I can say about it. So yeah, so obviously we had high expectations from this, and to be honest, before this bull run was taking place, I was saying that, you know, we're going to have a 2-cent December, we're going to have a 3-cent Christmas. We ended up having a 4.25 cent December. Unfortunately, my fears throughout all of that bull run was that we were going to essentially go parabolic, which is kind of what's happened, and now the inevitable pullback took place, and it's kind of broken this chart. It's going to be very difficult for me to work on this one for you all. I can't say that there's going to be any kind of reversal anytime soon. Just by looking at it, the way I trade is through moving averages. They're very simple and easy, and usually quite reliable way to trade. So just to put this into perspective, we started to go bullish when we saw that the 200 exponential on the sats, which I've not got up here, had a golden cross. It was around about this level here. It was around about this level here. We had the golden cross take place on the sats level. That's what caused this initial pump. We came back down, but that caused our price action to hover above this daily 200 exponential moving average, and it's the fact that that happened plus this big price action here caused a golden cross to be inevitably created here, and that's when I started to get very bullish. Like I say, I mean, people who watch this channel know that, they've been following me, and I'm pretty sure my main group of followers, especially those on the Telegram, have made some significant money because they got out at the right moment as well. We were hoping to hold this through into the new year. That's all our intention. That's what we were hoping to achieve. But unfortunately, when I started to see this getting topped out, especially on the Sats level, when we were front run on the Satoshi all-time high, that's when I started to get concerned, and I thought if we don't come close to that figure again, it's probably topped out. We didn't come close to it, so we did sell. Like I say, most of those who follow me on Telegram sold as well. So yeah, we were kind of all safe from that. I appreciate there's a lot of people who haven't been safe from that, and are probably feeling, you know, a little upset at the moment, considering it depends on where they bought it, but unless you got in around this level where we all got in, you know, and you'll have almost broken even at this point. If you didn't get back in there, and like I say, I mean, we all got in around this level on purpose because this moving average here was beginning to converge with the 200 exponential, creating that golden cross. You know, even if we hadn't have sold at the top, you know, we would still be technically down or just broken even. So I appreciate the majority of people who got involved in this move might be feeling the pain. Now don't worry, because if we go back in time, we saw something like this take place. However, when we broke down from it, we had incremental steps down, and it was very different. This time, and Matic have been sort of asked to answer questions regarding this. Matic themselves, you know, they're a blockchain company. You know, they're not really in control of price. So I always thought, you know, all this complaining to them directly is a little unfair. This is what happens with trading. If you have a small cap coin that moved like this in the first place, what do you think is going to happen to a small cap coin if you introduce margin trading to it? You have the ability to increase gains by, I believe it's 5 times that of your value by borrowing. You also can make money from shorting it. Now, if something comes up like this, which is similar to what happened here, it's you know, it's highly likely that you will have a move like this take place shortly afterwards. Unfortunately, this wasn't absolute parabolic, but it was a 4x move. Once people recognised that we topped out, like I did, I recognised that we had topped out. I didn't want to short this. I don't like shorting or doing margin trading on anything other than the top cap coins. Because even with those guys, Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, EOS, even those guys are very, very volatile. Could you imagine trying to short something like this, or just margin trade it? You could make significant, huge gains. You could make incredible, massive, unforgiving losses. You know, so I would not margin trade an asset like Matic. You don't need to when something does a 4x in a couple of weeks. You really do not need to do that. But obviously it is available for margin trading, so people can short this now, and this is exactly the sort of thing you would expect from something that's shortable. Given what happened here is a little telltale sign of when it goes up too fast too soon, we come back down, and this is what happened here. This is trading for you, unfortunately. This is trading cryptocurrency. You know, heavily manipulated by nature, not by some crazy bloke in the shadows who's trying to steal your money, but by a group of people who want to make money and can read charts. Like I say, I recognised it had topped out. I'm sure many other people had as well. The volume at this level was a steady away volume. At this point it was absolutely unbelievable. This has just completely just wrecked everything. The volume really picked up on the move down. Anyway, let's move on from that. What's going to happen next? So unfortunately from today's candle we've gone down beneath the 200 exponential moving average, and if we stay beneath that, the price action is staying beneath the 200 exponential, which is we'll call it 1.7 cent. It means that this area here will eventually come back down beneath it, forming a death cross, meaning that the price will actually go lower than it is right now, and probably making a new all-time low, because we've not actually had a death cross ever on the Matic chart. This would be the first death cross that we would ever have. The reason being is that the chart isn't old enough to have ever formed a death cross. So this would be the first ever death cross formed by Matic, and because of that, it will react accordingly to that. Now, a death cross on most assets would suggest around about 35% decrease in its price from the point that the death cross took place. But because Matic likes to move, you know, a lot larger than most assets, we could be looking at a bigger pullback than that. So let's just say that we hang around this area now. Let's just say that the price action took place here, where the death cross occurred. We have 35% further to fall. That's going to bring our price action down to 1 cent if we have the death cross at the price action that we are at right now. Now, we could be subject to some bouncing, but the problem I've got by looking at this is that on the daily chart we're now beneath all moving averages, and they're all facing down very, very aggressively. So realistically we've only got previous support levels to bounce on, which is kind of around every little step, which is at the moment the price action is we'll call it 1.55. The next will be 1.5. The next will be 1.4. So you can call it, you know, a 1/10%. Each of the way down will be an incremental step, where there could be a bottom form. Definitely where this Ichimoku cloud is at the moment would be a support level, and that's at 1.45 cent. If we get down to that level, I would expect a temporary bounce at least. If we break down beneath there, which is going to be 1.38, there'll be nothing beneath us, and there's nothing beneath us. The itchy cloud is all the way up here at that point. It's basically going to have the rug pulled from under its feet, and it could get really, really nasty for Matic, and we could easily come down to our previous all-time low after the first parabolic run, which is just beneath 1 cent. We could come down lower than that still. Again, if this death cross forms, depending on where the price action is, I would expect at least 35% further to fall. So we can only really hope for a bounce at this point. And now I would expect that we have to get above the 200x exponential moving average to avoid this death cross. That is an essential component. Ideally we want to get above this 1.75 cent, so we can try and reaccumulate amongst this area between there and 2 cent. Then that would be an okay area, because still we'd be up at that level. We'd be up above the last accumulation zone. We can accumulate here, that'd be great, or even better, accumulate above 2 cent. But as the Matic chart looks right now, and again it's very, very early and it's very difficult to work out what's going to happen with a coin like this, given that this is such a rare move on anything, on any asset, crypto or anything never really moves like this. We're going to have to wait to see how the moving averages play out. And again, if our price action has been beneath this level here, we get the death cross, we come down. If we manage to stay above it, reaccumulate between 1.7 and 2 cent, then there's a chance that we can recover from this actually quicker than you might expect. But like I say, it all depends on where the price action is, and it needs to be above 1.7 cent, or yeah, just definitely above 1.7 cent. To form a recovery. Below that, it would probably look quite nasty. Anyway, that's all I really have to say on Matic right now. I will keep looking at this chart because I do love Matic. I still do believe that there's plenty of opportunity in this coin, but at the moment the opportunities are, and they're not apparent right now. The dust needs to settle, and look at all this dust in the air. Technicolor dust in the form of steeply sloping moving averages does not look good for anything. It's not an asset I'd want to trade neither up nor down. It's all over the place and it needs to reset. I'm going to wait to see if this death cross forms. If it does, then I'll leave it. If it doesn't and it starts to reaccumulate here and it looks constructive, and preferably we'll stay above, we need to stay above both the 200 exponential and ideally the 50, the green 50 exponential, which will be this one. If we can stay above there, that might look like reaccumulation to me, and I might get back in at that point. But for the moment, it's definitely something I'm going to stay well away from. Unfortunately, this coin, this token, is broken down now, and it's not tradable. You cannot trade this at the moment, and if you do, it's basically gambling. But you know, we recovered from it once before, but it did look very different before. You know, we had a descending trend which we were stuck under, and we broke out of it, and we looked good from that. At the moment, you can't, no one can, nobody can tell me that technical analysis is going to work on this chart as of this moment in time. This is going to take a couple of weeks for us to even begin to speculate as to what's going to happen, and probably at the beginning of next year, in about a month or so, we might have some reliable indicators again, but for the moment we don't have anything like that. I do expect Bitcoin to come down, and that's only going to impact Matic more. So unfortunately, it does look very bearish for Matic for the meantime, because Bitcoin's going to dictate the market. It's going to move the entire market down if it breaks down, and I do think it will break down. But we just have to wait and see, and if it breaks down, then we'll just have to deal with that. Once Bitcoin's found its bottom, it'd be safe to assume that Matic may have found its bottom, as well as all the other cryptocurrencies out there will have found their bottom. But at the same time, unless Matic has a constructive looking chart and tells me that it's reaccumulating, I'd be much more interested in buying up and going long on some of the large cap coins, the more reliable coins with more reliable charts, because they follow Bitcoin more accurately, and Bitcoin is the chart, which is easier to read. And if Bitcoin looks like it's bottomed, and we get that confirmation that it's bottomed, it'd be safe to assume that the other alts have bottomed as well. But Matic, with a chart like this, may not have bottomed at that point, because it looks completely different to all the other charts. It's going to be sensitive to Bitcoin's move down. It might not be sensitive to Bitcoin's move up. You know, there's no reason why it would. It's definitely going to be pulled down, but it might not be bought back up at the same rate that Bitcoin is, and that will only impact it because the Satoshi values will decrease, and because Bitcoin will move more aggressively than Matic. So, you know, there's a lot that we have to wait for to start trading this, and unfortunately we just have to wait. We have to wait it out. You've got to be patient with a coin like this. At the moment, you know, the fire is burning bright, and you know, there's no chance that we can even put that fire out right now. You've got to wait and see. But at the moment, unfortunately, it does look bearish, and it looks like it wants to come down more, and it could come down significantly more, below 1 cent, unfortunately. Never mind, Matic, never mind. I will be buying you back, don't you worry about that. But for the moment, unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave you alone. And I would, even though I'm not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, I would stress to everybody right now that Bitcoin, it does look bearish. There is a good chance, it's a 50-50 chance, I would say, that it's going to come crashing down. And 50-50, that's gambling basically. I'm not going long or short on 50-50. I need to be at least 65% sure that something's going to happen to even take a risk on that. And when something's 50-50, I mean, anything could happen. And I don't have a magic wand. I just have TA to go by, and the TA looks bearish. Although we are at the top of a resistance level, and we're chipping away at it, so there is a chance that it could go up. It's a 50-50, and I don't trade 50-50s. And I would be very cautious if you decide to trade it too. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you have a nice evening, and take it easy. See you later, mate.